Hi everyone, I'm Kylee Ingram, the CEO and co-founder of Wiser, and this is the episode of the Higher Business series starts with a story about timing and a person who knew exactly what to do with it. Sorrel Kesby, that's you. Sorrel has spent her career helping tech and advertising businesses turn data into smarter decisions. She has led the integration of ad tech companies into global acquirers and held senior roles in digital publishing houses and MarTech firms, scaling analytics-driven strategies and international expansion. Beyond her corporate work, she's also doing good, helping mentors and mentor founders through the Founder Institute and advises startups across a number of industries. Now, I think part of this is I'm very jealous. In just 8 months, Sorrel and her team have built Even Better AI, a platform that helps organizations navigate compliance with more clarity and confidence. It's proof of what happens when purpose, experience, and technology line up at the right moment. The conversation is about how evidence can restore trust in a time when opinion often drowns it out, because whether we're talking about compliance, leadership, equity, or data doesn't care. It reveals. It helps us see what's really happening when the truth is uncomfortable. So thank you for joining us today. Type your questions into the comments and we can pop them up on screen. And please introduce yourselves to one another if you're watching live so you can network with other people here because they're probably really good humans. Welcome, Sorrel. So lovely to have you.
Thanks, Kylee. Great to be here. Very nice introduction there. Appreciate it. What a word.
I know it's hard when people have achieved a lot. It can be a long intro for us. So tell us a little bit about Even Better AI. Where did the idea come from? What is it, and where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so evenbetter.ai is a gender pay gap management software and workforce planning software. And the idea came about because ultimately my co-founder and I have always worked in a variety of tech-based industries, be they tech, and I've always, side hustle, if you will, around representation, and I guess really very inherently understood that diversity of thinking, diversity of leadership will always generate better ideas and therefore better business. That's always been a core sort of ethos of what both of myself and AL have been about in a variety of businesses. The real sort of trigger moment for us, though, with Even Better was when the government, through the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, WGEA, started legislation mandating organisations, private and public, to report on their gender pay gap, to effectively provide that government organisation with a variety of payroll data, survey data around things like policies and inclusive approach to results a couple of months ago. The first batch of results were published for the 2023 period in 2024. Really pricked up my ears. This is something that government organisations in the government sector have been tracking and reporting on for quite a while, about 13 years. But this was the first time that was, a light was shone onto a whole array of different industries, different businesses, and what they were or in fact weren't doing around the gender pay gap. A year later, same thing. We finally had a year-on-year comparison of data. I'm an absolute data nerd, and probably the most shocking thing I found, given the amount of organisations that have put their hands up and said we're working on this, we're taking gender pay action, was that the national gender pay gap didn't move. And in fact, I think it went from 21.7 to 21.8%. AL and my co-founder and I were already working together in the works, building our ideas around how we can analyse and effectively be a diagnostic tool for an organisation's gender pay gap. But that real push for us was, well, hang on, a lot of work's being done by the government, by organisations. Why on earth is there still a almost 22% gender pay gap? Something that's very, very close to my heart, obviously. But yeah, there just needs to be more ability to understand the where, what, and how of an organisation's gender pay gap, and AI was naturally the first step, our first place we looked, and the rest, as they say. So soft launched end of last year, hard launched in March, and already signing up some really interesting organisations very keen on solving the gender pay gap or really making a dent on it in Australia.
It's a really, like, I think this is a tale of two stories. A, what you're doing, which is fascinating and such an important thing when there is, still that over 20% difference, which we will leave as just fact for now. But how did you get to market so quickly? Because that really is extraordinary. What do you think? Is it timing, team, purpose? What made that possible? Because that's hard.
It is hard, and I have had the, at times, pleasure and not pleasure of launching other parts of software and other businesses, geographically and horizontal expansion in product. It is hard, and the ability to move quickly, iterate and adjust, get the market feedback and move forward is a real skill. It's a skill I've tried to hone over the years, but I really have to give so much credit to my co-founder, AL, who has a really, really strong background in product engineering, marketing. But really the hero on the day, purpose, timing, obviously with the second year of WGEA reporting, and AI. The ability to use tools like Vibe Code to take great ideas, huge amounts of data, then package all that up in a excellent interface that is so much quicker to build, so much easier to iterate on. Again, predominantly I just give feedback. AL does the wizardry, but that is really unprecedented. I mean, it has taken us a really short amount of time to get to a place of, I think, a really, really strong way for organizations from a board level all the way down to your HR business partner to engage with the core root challenges of an organization's gender pay gap, and that's visualization, understanding of insights, and definitely all the ideas in the world, but an ability to move quickly with a 2-person team and be in market with something that's helping is phenomenal.
Yeah, and the compliance really, really helps too. But I guess, I don't know whether you think you could have done it without AI, but I think, we've spoken to a lot of leaders about, rushing into AI without really understanding the problem they're solving.
Yes.
Where did AI sit for you in the sense that?
Yeah, it's often in organizations, most of what I've done or what I've been, the organizations I've been in have had an AI bent, not generative AI, not agentic AI, basically the original AI language models that allowed us, again, to take a huge amount of data and create things. I believe that moved really quite quickly because of the task of digital advertising, millions and millions and millions of ad impressions, what's happening, what message is working, all of that sort of stuff. That's where I started my career. The analysis of that, hugely consuming, hugely able to be inadvertently subverted with, humans accidentally doing whatever. So that was a very natural place, I think, for AI to really grow. And so I have had the honor, sort of privilege of working alongside incredible data scientists and data engineers for many years, which has afforded me a fairly strong understanding, I think. But in terms of what organizations, so that's the bread and butter of say the products of the organizations I was working in, but you would still get, and certainly with the rise of generative AI, okay, everyone gets a ChatGPT license. Great, love that. I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. But like any change management piece, the training and the understanding of how that's going to revolutionize your life, you can't just sort of leave that to chance. It's not this magic sort of magic pill that everyone gets, blue pill, red pill. Oh, you've taken the blue pill, off you go, crush it. You've got to really be directional and training, change management. What is your account management team, be your sales team, be your engineering team? They're going to use AI in a variety of different ways, and to not give them a roadmap or framework is to not really set them up for success. And so I think that's what we see, this huge push of everyone's going to revolutionize their organizations with AI. Some have done it well, and some of them have left everyone to their own devices, and we're sort of seeing the second wave of the fallout of that, I suspect. So my advice or my approach, and it certainly ties into even better, is one size doesn't fit all with AI. Again, after the first wave of generative AI, where everyone sort of thought that would be the go-to for everything, we are now seeing, us as well, what we're doing it even better, customized approaches to using AI in a very considered, structured framework to solve a particular piece of work, as opposed to this kind of broad strokes umbrella of like, yeah, use AI for this, use AI for that. I think we'll see more of that. There's an adoption curve, and then we get into the more niche, siloed, but crucial applications of AI that require a lot more training and learning and development than a broad strokes, sort of open AI generative platform. So I think we're just starting wave 2, which is, okay, we all had a crack at that. Love that. It's helping our lives. But how are we applying it more meaningfully to the bigger, meatier, data-led challenges that we face in the world, I guess, in Australia?
Are your clients interested in how you're using AI, and does that come into trust with them? Or, because a lot of people, a lot of companies are trying to integrate it into what they're doing.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I think we're speaking to a really wide variety and array of industries and, clients, potential customers. So I wouldn't say there's a theme broadly of everyone wanting to get under the hood. I mean, outside of procurement teams, of course, and cybersecurity teams, of course, they want to make sure what on earth is going on. But in terms of the hands-on keyboard customer, if you will, the people that are uploading their data and utilizing our software for analysis and understanding and actions to close the gap. Most of them are just, they're thrilled, which I love. It's the happiest moment of every one of my days when someone's like, oh, we've been trying to understand this for ages. This is really clear. It's a great news story. They're not necessarily falling over themselves to tinker under the hood or understand too much, simply because the level of, I think, understanding we're now able to provide them is quite a strong upward shift in understanding and analysis. We're still taking huge amounts of data and creating a 4D chessboard of interrelated causation and moving this piece, changes this thing over here as well. So that's really where we're up to at the moment. The first step is engagement with what the data is telling them, not how we're getting the data to tell them that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's cool. And I guess, getting into what you guys are really doing at Even Better AI, I guess we're seeing, there's a lot of cultural pushback on topics like gender equity and inclusion. And from your perspective, and I think this is the crux of when, we first met up and spoke about what both our companies are doing, about how data helps move those conversations forward rather than fueling that more division. Like, I know we put forward data rather than have the argument about who's in a room for decisions, and you can do the same thing. So let's talk about that, how data can help with culture to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a really crucial, we're at a very, very clear tipping point around the activism, the factivism is what we sort of think about it as. Now, personally, I am hugely mission-led as a founder in what I'm doing with Even Better, as a woman, obviously being able to help businesses improve the conditions for me and future women and women everywhere. I love that. That's brilliant. All men, just gender in general, the equality piece. But that aside, data doesn't lie. So the way in which we approach the analysis, the reporting artifacts from our platform are all geared toward providing the data to support organizational change around the concept that good businesses are built diversely, and they're built, better businesses come from diversity of thinking, diversity of management, not obviously just gender, but we're starting there. And what I believe, and what I've certainly spent a lot of time reporting to boards and management teams around, is you need to have the same level of reporting accuracy, confidence, data integrity when you're having those conversations as you do when you're having your P&L conversations or your growth conversations. So what we're trying to provide is the data to support decisioning around building better businesses through diversity of approaches to hiring, promotion, etc., rather than just saying that, oh, we have to do this because we're doing good. Now, the second statement is true, but the way that we firmly believe that will get more and more headway in our communities and in our organizations in Australia and globally is by providing the data that supports the good. It's the difference between greenwashing and demonstrating that great business can come from using renewables. So ultimate piece is, for the longest time, there's so many organizations that have people that are really working very, very hard to do this work. And we believe that have yet had sort of struggled to get the foundational data to support that work. So that's what we're doing. We are not HR professionals. I have the utmost respect for HR professionals, but we're not. We are data. We're a data diagnostic platform to support the excellent work of organizations, HR professionals, DE&I practitioners. So that's kind of a fairly important distinction that we make. Again, because the data doesn't lie. It doesn't matter what anyone else wants to say about, oh no, there is no pay gap, or oh well, we're just in an industry where there's always going to be. It's like, true, we can attribute the pay gap to market, to industry, absolutely, because we analyze and and provide that data-led insight.
Yeah, well, we've got a question here from Kush. She's fantastic. Which work activities, areas with your client base AI adoption picked up as quickly has now slowed down? Is there any trend you see there?
Yeah, I think, I guess probably double clicking into what I was mentioning before of there were certainly, 12 months ago, 8 months ago, 9 months ago when we were first launching, there was a lot more, I was having a lot more conversations with people who were like, yeah, this is excellent what we're doing. We love it, but we're just going to maybe run our numbers through our open AI, whatever it is, whatever platform they're using, and quite quickly realize that that's, again, the adoption quickly as the magic genie that answers all questions when it is a really broad AI model and language model. That's certainly stopped now, or certainly we've seen that really slow down. I think a lot of people have had some great wins with broad strokes, more generic generative AI platforms, but again, are coming back around to understanding, well, if you are working in a pretty new area of data analysis, like the gender pay gap, like analysis and reporting for gender pay gap as an example, there's not a lot of information out there on the web, and so open AI style platforms are not going to have any information to be trained on, and you're going to start getting hallucinations and some fairly problematic stuff, which nobody wants to be presenting to boards or management teams. So yeah, I think, again, the adoption curve of this magic genie that will answer all your questions, great, until it's not super great. And then organizations come looking for the custom, directly applied methodologies through AI that will get them to the right answers.
Yeah, you'd think you can create a lot more, really pinpointed stuff with the AI as well. So, I don't know whether you've come across, I think you have because we've spoken about it, but we were kind of talking about Plan Australia did the Gender Compass, looked into how people come at things. When you were talking a little bit about, there's resistance to things, and you've got, your trailblazers that, know that there's a problem, want to solve it, and then right down to, 17% of the rejectors, and how you have, how you have to come at these people with different things. So
absolutely,
I think data helps with them too. Even the most, the people, like I was talking to some consultants they can get a lot of pushback from those rejectors. It can make it hard. Whereas, if you can let the data speak for itself, I do think you get a lot, the wedge gets bigger.
Absolutely right. Yes. The wedge gets bigger. You're able to crack the door again. Same concept. Absolutely right. And it kind of goes back to what I was mentioning before around, again, data doesn't lie. It's not an opinion. It's not subjective. I mean, sure, of course, everyone can take data and, on their own in a spreadsheet, make it say whatever you want. But if you've actually got really solid, again, AI models that are learning from new data each and every day, and they are focused on a particular problem, like the gender pay gap, then you are able to provide data that is not subjective, that is not, we're doing it because it's good or just good. It does. I think, yeah, we've certainly had, and Kylee, you and I have spoken about this before. You'll have people, I've certainly come across people who say, well, there's no such thing as a gender pay gap because we've had same work, same pay legislation in Australia for many years, which is fantastic. Love that. Love that there is that sort of legislation. Not all countries have it. But the ability to say that you and I are getting paid the same, I'm male, you're female, is great and is important, and is an important foundational step toward closing a gender pay gap. But what it doesn't ever consider is systemic and organizational structures that are repressing the ability for a particular gender to progress or be hired. And so when people say that, it's like, okay, well, interesting. Let's look at the data to understand what this global social science technology is saying about your business or this business or anything else. And then usually the follow-up is, oh, well, it's also the industry we work in. So absolutely fantastic. Let's look at talent availability within those industries, within those roles, and let's carve out and say you've got a 20% pay gap, and 5-10% of that is because you work in a particularly skewed one way or the other gendered industry. Completely understand. No one's denying that. No one's saying that everything is 50-50. The ability to hire people, but again, it's the whole story. I have yet to see a single organization where their entire pay gap is simply the industry, because, again, WGEA is doing wonderful work with publishing all of these different gaps. And so if that were the case, you would see a whole bunch of organizations with exactly the same, in the same industry, with exactly the same gender pay gap. If that were happening, I actually think that would be an excellent sign that, hell, they've done a lot of work internally and now they've got to focus industry-wide, to attract you break down assumptive pushbacks with data, I think infinitely better and much more objectively than you can with some of, unfortunately, the previous sort of work in which everyone kind of knew they maybe should be, but it's hard to quantify and to qualify and to support the practitioners doing that great work without the data underpinning it.
Is there anything you've come across that you've just gone, oh, wow, like that you weren't expecting? Is there anything that's kind of, wow, sorry, I've thrown this one as a curveball to you, but you never know. Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. Is there any data that you've come across that you've got, or is it data, or is it something that you've come across when you started this and you were like, oh, I didn't expect that? Or
yeah, I guess look, I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of things before I started, because again, data-led decisioning also when you're going to start your own organization is pretty crucial. Do recommend everyone. I think probably there's some of the really interesting initial research that we did with Even Better when we were first launching was we took the 2024 period published earlier this year, and we looked at so it's about 70 organizations that support the process of reporting to a GEA. And part of that process is qualitative and quantitative. So there's a survey of where organizations will go through, have they looked at gender pay action? What policies do they have in place? To narrow it, year on year. And the really startling, and I mean, I was thrilled to see this, honestly, because it really aligned with why we'd launched Even Better. But of that 7,800 companies, about 50%, I think 52% had said, put their hands up, in that survey and said, yes, we've done our own analysis and we've taken action. Fantastic, right? 50% of that 52% pay gap had gotten worse. So they had said about inversely, the 48-ish% of organizations that said, no, we haven't, we're reporting, but we haven't yet, or we haven't taken any gender pay action in that period. Their gender pay got better, 50% of them. So if you think about that as this concept of why the gender pay gap high, it's deceptive complex. And it was a really lightning bolt moment for me, because it just showed that no matter who's trying to do or not trying to do work here, it is, again, it's a game of 4D chess, and the downstream correlations, ramifications of actions. Oh, I've got a huge gender pay gap, I'll go and hire a bunch more women. Excellent. Nobody should ever be upset about that kind of work or that kind of approach, except if the entirety of your female employees tend to sit in, lower pay quartile roles, your gender pay gap's going to get worse. And if people aren't aware of that and aren't getting ahead of, we're going to do this to create a bigger pool of women, higher representation, more progression opportunities down the line. So it's a 1, 3, and 5 year plan. They just inadvertently shot themselves in the foot. And if they're then going back to the board and saying, well, we tried and it got worse, you're going to lose a lot of allies and engagement with the issue. So yeah, that was a really interesting, sort of correlation and causation piece that we could very easily look at. So I'm in, again, data nerd, can't wait for the reporting to come out again in March and see what's been adjusted there. But it does, it just shows it's very, very difficult to just say we're going to do this one thing and that'll solve it.
That's got to be really actually exciting as you're going to watch these stuff come in, to see how far you've moved your clients and made differences for people. That's going to be so much fun to watch. Yes, I agree. Awaiting with bated breath. I mean, the great news is, because we are supporting a number of organisations to do their OG reporting as we go into next year, and we're already working with them on regular, plans and updates to their data. There shouldn't be too many surprises. We should know. We kind of already do know where we're seeing the right trends happening in our customers' organisations, which is, they pay me to do that. It's amazing. I'm absolutely thrilled to be partnering with them to do excellent work. Nice. Kush, maybe you need, I might need some clarification on this, because I know you work, with offshore teams too. Are we talking about migrant, skills onshore, offshore? Is there a difference in that, or not? Give us some more context there. We'll come back to that one. Look, we can start to wrap up, because I think you've proven you're building something so meaningful. What lessons do you think other leaders can take from, what you've done in months, not years? Because once again, I'm still very jealous of this outcome. I think we're very, when we first went to market, and even now, we are very open about the fact that we are an Australian startup. We come from a very, very strong data, cybersecurity, PII, GDPR compliant backgrounds. But ultimately, when we're talking to our customers or our potential customers, we're pretty clear about this is an iterative space, not just our platform, but the entire body of work happening both in Australia and globally around gender pay and gender pay gap management. And the reason we do that is because we have already iterated the platform, I want to say 5 or 6 times in the last 9 months since launch. And we've done that very intentionally. I think a lot of organizations and a lot of founders that I've had, again, the pleasure of working with, they want to build and build and build and build until it's perfect and then launch. And, the oft used, but I love the expression of sort of building the plane as you're flying it. That's one of my co-founders' favorite sort of sayings. And that is okay. So it's not okay to be launching something that isn't going to, drive confidence in your customers, especially as it relates to where the data is housed and encrypted. That you've got to get absolutely rock solid. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 until you've done that. $2 million if you're raising, whatever it is. But in terms of the look and feel, especially in a space that's very innovative, the visualization of root causes of gender pay gap, or any number of other problems and challenges that AI and startups can and will solve, every is
something for your potential customers and your customers. So you're never going to be done fixing it, updating it, iterating it. And if you think you can build something, launch it, and we're good, you're going to end up in analysis paralysis, and you're not going to move fast enough to really jump on the opportunity. A great idea, absolutely solid data infrastructure, those two things combined, and step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the interface, the platform, whatever, is a great thing to launch. And be open and honest about it. You don't have to pretend that there's this 200-person team working behind you. Founders take feedback from customers and create, again, through vibe coding and AI the Genius, that capability a week later. That's what you get when you partner with startups. It's, corporate, bigger business can't do that. So that's your secret weapon, use that to your superpower.
Yeah, it is. And when you're scaling now, you don't necessarily need as many people. So Kush was wondering whether you're seeing any data around onshore, like people that, might come, migrants onshore. Is there that, I guess, are you seeing that data or?
So not really. Ultimately, we can analyze the data that organizations have. We are platform borderless, so any sort of the way I explain it, which is super simple, any column in a spreadsheet that you can give us a fulsome list of data against anonymized employee IDs, we can double down and analyze that for you. Now, obviously, there are some challenges certainly with organizations and how and where and why they collect things, like, so I'm sure so the very short answer to my long rambling one is not yet, but I'd be very surprised to see if there weren't going to be more and more of that sort of data being looked at. But again, unfortunately, the good thing about data is it doesn't lie. The bad thing about data is if it's not there, I can't analyze it for you. So that's going to be an iterative process, but the platform is certainly built for that.
Sounds like you've got something else you can do for Kush. She's,
Perfect.
You two need to catch up. And Matt's come in. Matt was at the Cybersecurity Research and Innovation, done deep work on representation in the cybersecurity industry with only 17% being women. So I guess that's where that, you can blame the industry, but still there's nuance to see behind those numbers too, isn't there?
Absolutely right. Yeah. So there is a direct Venn diagram or interplay around representation and gender pay gap. Of course, we all know that. But to put that in very stark contrast, if you don't want a gender pay gap, the reason I bring that up is when you're dealing with, or when you're looking at organizationally or at an industry level, work to improve gender representation, be it male or female, obviously female in this instance, you do have to really understand what that is going to do short term to drive longer term change. And what I mean by that is if you do have a 17% representation in your organization, and actually you're doing a big push toward increasing representation, that will likely come depending on the talent availability in the market. But again, Matt's example is saying there's work to be done on attracting female employees into that industry. Then you're likely going to be hiring more grad or early stage career women into the organization, which will very likely increase your gender pay gap, right? But your representation will go up, and over time, will ultimately improve your business, improve the industry, which is excellent. But if you don't inherently understand and are able to educate on that first step, which is it's going to, on paper, get worse before it gets better, you're gonna have, again, some problems with engagement from management teams, your exec teams, and so forth. So representation, usually as your organization will very quickly highlight where you might have diversity and seniority challenges in different parts of your business. But again, if you know that, you can get in front of it and you can explain the action plan that might be 3, 4, or 5 years long. That's okay. The trend line is going to be up and to the right. But yeah, it's the next point representation often culture for some of our customers. So it's always nice to give them that kind of aha moment where they can then craft their strategy and the education of their teams and the markets around what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, nice. So where do you see even better going? Where do you want to be even better? Where do you see it going?
I would, yeah, the puns never gets old. I love it.
It's like bee jokes. They're everywhere.
Very much designs the platform and the business to be a global business that has launched in Australia first for all of the reasons we've spent half an hour discussing, inclusive of myself and my co-founder living in Sydney. But very much a long to go global, to look at a whole variety of other markets. And we already have customers headquartered in Australia, but have other markets that are using our platform to analyze in exactly the same way, even though they don't have to report to the WGEA equivalent necessarily. But yeah, there's so many OECD countries, the UK, there's big pay transparency acts coming out in Europe next year, all of which, once again, requires data and analysis and understanding, both from a compliance and reporting perspective, but from an actual meaningful change. So look, world's our oyster. Our plan is to get, again, just supported in this space and build even better businesses. That's what we're going to do.
I know, it's exciting. I can't wait to watch your journey and see how you go. I can't wait to see if you just keep going this fast. It's unreal. And I think your story reminds us that, real breakthroughs come when timing, purpose, and people align. And both Even Better AI and Wiser are built on that same principle, that we use intelligence responsibly and it helps us see more clearly, act fairly, and trust our decisions again. So I want to thank you for joining us today, because I've enjoyed the conversation. And in a world full of opinions, letting data speak for itself isn't just smart, it might be necessary. Yeah. So if you'd like to learn more about Even Better AI, head on over there.
Please do. Come chat. I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, so that's great. Well, thanks for joining us today, everybody. And thanks especially to Kush for all your questions you throw out as our viewer of the morning. Much appreciated. And Sorrel, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. And thank you so much for having us and hosting this incredible topic. Really appreciate it.
Bye all.